All right, here we go. Welcome, everyone. Hello, this is the Riverfront, and I have no idea what episode this is going to go down as, but we are the world's most dangerous podcast, where we discuss the Cincinnati Reds and occasionally Ryan Lavarnway. I'm not your host, Chad Dotson. I'm the little brother. I'm Nate Dotson. I'm here with Wick Terrell and Chris Garber. It is opening day. We're coming at you live, and we're going to have some fun. So, before we get into everything that just happened and the holiday that is opening day in Cincinnati, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like button, smash the subscribe button. If you're listening to the audio, why not go ahead and subscribe there too, because we're pretty cool and you like to hear our sweet, sweet voices as much as possible. And this could not be possible without the patreon.com/Riverfront Cincy family, where we get together and talk shop and just a bunch of weirdos who have decided to pay money because they like the Reds. So go figure. Gentlemen, game's over. Did not end the way we would have hoped. 5-4 Pirates win. It was exciting at the end. I don't know. I'm going to go, Wick, I'll start with you. General 30,000 foot view feelings about opening day.
Just glad it was opening day again. I mean, it looked and felt like opening day in Cincinnati, which, for a number of different reasons, pandemic issues, lockout issues, and starting on the road last year, it looked like you would expect it to look, and that's cool. I mean, that's fantastic to have. The fans of Cincinnati deserve to have that, regardless of what the Reds choose to give to them, and that was wonderful to behold. On the field, it's the same thing that I think a lot of us kind of have acknowledged over the course of the last couple of months, is that there's a lot of cool, good, young talent on the Reds. It's not a great 26-man roster top to bottom, but when you've got cool, young, good talent, you'll see spurts of really, really impressive stuff. Whether or not Hunter Green threw 105.2 miles an hour, or if it was only 101.9, whatever it was, he was electric. He struck out, I guess, 8 of the first 10 outs that were recorded were strikeouts, and things kind of fell apart a little bit after that. But but you also saw the bad parts. You saw the bullpen not ready to step in a big spot against a team that didn't exactly do their due diligence over the winter to make themselves a formidable foe either. It ended up being a loss to the Pittsburgh Pirates on opening day at home, which you never want to see in the grand scheme of things. But so kind of, I guess, a microcosm of what the Reds are going to be up against this year, which is a lot of talent, not a lot of experience, and there's going to be some rough patches out there, but a fun day. I hope it's not the most fun we have for the next couple weeks.
God,
we'll see how that goes. It's been some rough Aprils in the last couple of years, so hopefully this is not a sign of worse things to come. But it was a fun opening day either way.
Yeah, I agree. Please do not let that be the most fun that we have. Chris, you're local over there. What was the feeling? What was the city like? Was there any kind of buzz? Was it at least?
Oh, well, I'm in Columbus. I'm in Columbus. I'm 2 hours away, and I just got back to town this afternoon about 3:00. So I had no idea what it's really like here. It wasn't a lot of excitement in Dallas this morning when I got on the plane about Reds baseball. So, yeah. No, I mean, same for here. I'm just glad to see them back. It was cool. It was fun to watch. I thought the pitch clock really does make a difference once they started going. And in a couple ways we can talk about one sequence in particular where I think it may have had a bad effect on the Reds, but the game moved right along. The Reds walking 16 batters or whatever it was didn't help, though. I did have to take a nap in the 6th, 7th, and 8th innings. So we're not quite to the pace of baseball that I can handle yet, but it was fun. It's always good to have one's priors confirmed, and that happened today for me anyway.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there was a whole lot of what we expected on that field. I'm going to keep riding high, though. Like I had a lot of fun today watching Cincinnati Reds baseball, and that's something that I don't remember feeling. I mean, I'm sure it happened a couple times last year, maybe opening day, that first series against the Braves. But other than that, there weren't many opportunities for just general, just joy and enthusiasm about the team, about the city. A couple quick comments, things that I noticed. I do want to get into what you were talking about, Chris. that one sequence. I assume you're talking about the Hunter Green little span there where he seemed a little bit rushed. But just off the top, things that stuck out to me. One, I think I'm going to have a whole lot of fun watching Jonathan India play baseball this season. He looked dialed in from the first pitch. He was hustling around the base pass. He looked like that guy he did 2 seasons ago. And I think whatever that monkey that was on his back, maybe the Mike Moustakish size monkey on his back is off, and he's flying around and having fun. What are some other things that stood out to you, Wick?
I mean, I think it's, you mentioned India. I think a lot of it is that if the Reds can keep their best players on the field, they've got some good players. They've got some. They don't have as many as a lot of other teams do. But if you've got India, you've got Jake Fraley, who also looked great today. Spencer Steer turns out to be a guy who's a legit big league player. Looked fantastic today. Obviously, great game. Hit the crap out of one ball. If they can keep their best players on the field, they can be not the worst team in baseball. You could probably say the same thing about last year's team too. A lot of these guys were there last year also, and they just couldn't keep them on the field. And so that's the big question mark. It's guys that, were Chris, I think you've mentioned this on Twitter a couple times before. They're not old players, but it's not like there's a bunch of 21 and 22-year-old guys out there. They're 25, 26, 27, 28. They're, most of the good teams in baseball have several of those guys out there too, and a lot of them have got 2 or 3 years of experience. The Reds have that. They've got Fraley and Stevenson and India. They've got a core of guys who should be in their quote unquote prime years right now. And the question is whether or not they can get a 600 plus plate appearance season. And if they do, I think they've got the ability to have some pretty, solid core pieces there. Whether or not any of them can emerge into being the superstar piece to kind of carry the other guys on the roster, I don't know. That's the big question, because there's no track record here for really any of them. But as you mentioned, when they're healthy and they're on the field, there are some dynamic players atop that lineup. I hope they get a chance to piece that together more often than not this year. Last year they didn't, and so we're kind of waiting with bated breath and make sure that's the exception to the rule.
Yeah. I mean, I always think about position players first, and it's just my way I think about baseball. Mm-hmm. And the pitching staff has a lot of obviously really high ceiling, or a few really high ceiling guys that are pretty interesting. The offense, I think they've kind of gotten rid of some of the low floor guys like last year, mm-hmm. guys who maybe they'll be just as bad as Mike Moustakas was, but you're not gonna have to watch them all year long, because if Vossler's as bad as Moustakas, you're not going to hear from Vossler much longer. Yeah. But they've got these guys, and it's several of these dudes who are like either late young or prime or past their prime, and still have no track record in the major leagues. Mm-hmm. They probably started 3 or 4 of those guys today, and it's a really weird thing. And it's like, is this strategic, or is it like these are replacement level guys, and that's what they want to have on this roster, and that's what they look like? Guys who had potential. They haven't been released and out of the game, but they're 29 years old and they haven't had a full season under their belt yet. I don't know. But I thought you made a good point, Wick, about I don't know that they have the top end guys mm-hmm. that can carry a couple weak spots. I think they've improved their floor, but the ceiling's still pretty low for overall on the offensive side, I think.
The way I looked at it is, it's like they've got a lot, they made a lot of fair or reasonable bets on guys this year. Like, none of the guys that they're rolling out there, I'm like, there's no chance he's going to be something. You couldn't really say that last year. Like, last year, there were a lot of guys that are like, there's no chance. There's a chance on basically all of these guys. It's not a great chance on a lot of them, but there's at least you could find reasons where it's like, okay, best case scenario, yeah, he's got the opportunity to be a good player. The skills, I can see that could translate. It's just they're asking for, like, we talked about it on the Walks Will Hunt podcast last night. They bought themselves a lot of dice rolls, and if you roll dice a lot, you're gonna come up with something eventually. But it's still a dice roll, and like, how many of those are gonna happen and just happen to come up in the right way that you want them to all at the same time this year? I don't know. There's no two-sided die in this group right now, I don't think. And so, I mean, that's a strategy. It doesn't cost a whole lot. We've seen that for sure. it's just, I don't know. It's something I've never really seen a team that I follow as closely as I follow this group do before. So I don't really know exactly how much faith to put in that process, but it doesn't strike me as one that has a great chance of succeeding more than it fails. But it will succeed. I mean,
Come on.
Skills out there, no doubt about it.
Let me keep some opening day optimism, at least for a few days here. One positive that I'll take away is simply last year there were whole innings where the Reds didn't trot a single serviceable major league hitter to the plate. I don't think there was a 3-hitter span in that lineup today that included Vosslers and guys with 4 strikeouts who were Chad's favorite player. Not the debut we wanted from Will Benson. He's better days to come for sure.
Better days.
But I thought that every inning I could see who was coming up next and be like, okay, I can see a path to runs. And that was something that we didn't get to have last year. So that's just, for me, the Reds lost. There were some very questionable decisions on David Bell's behalf, but it was a fun team. I see why I'm going to have a good time watching Reds baseball this year. They're probably not going to contend. They're probably not going to have a winning record. They're almost certainly not. But I had a really good time watching Reds today, and yep. I'm gonna enjoy that for at least a little bit longer. You mentioned Jake. You mentioned Jake Fraley. Worth talking about. He's been one of those guys that I know a lot of people are excited about. I just haven't been able to convince myself that he might be a guy. Mm-hmm. He might be a guy. I don't know. He's probably not a guy, but he could be a guy.
He's not a guy. Now, so here's the thing. Like, because so many people are just like high as kites on Jake Fraley, like I like him. I really like him. Like today, like he's a good player. And I think he could be a good player. I think the thing is Jake Fraley's upside is like high upside is Adam Duvall's career. A guy who doesn't really get to play until he's 26, 27, 28, but can put together 6 or 7 years in the major leagues where he's like a legitimate part of good teams.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, like, and that's not nothing. Mm-hmm. But he's not Jay Bruce either.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the perspective that I feel like I'm the foreign object in the punch bowl for continuing to bring up. But
the Phil Castellini in the punch.
No, I mean, like, he's in many ways the guy I think I compare him most often to is Alex Verdugo in Boston, who was a big part of the Mookie Betts trade. And it's like, not that he was ever expected to come right in and replace Mookie Betts. Mookie got, traded with like a year of service time or a year of control before free agency. So they were never going to get full value for a superstar like that. But he's a serviceable piece, and they got him in that deal. They didn't get as much as they should have gotten for giving Mookie Betts away, but they got something. He's a piece, but like you can't expect him to be like the best player on your team and get further in the grand scheme of climbing up the baseball ladder than they are. Fraley's a good piece. He'd probably be about as good on Boston as Verdugo is, who's, I think he hit leadoff today and hit a triple off the wall. He's got some talent. He can hit right-handed pitching, but like, if you're asking him to hit third and hit 35 home runs and be a 6-win player and carry to the playoffs, like I don't think so. And
he's batting .500 this season. Have you noticed that he's on pace to be maybe the best hitter of all time?
Andrew Benintendi does not have his power and just signed a $75 million contract. Like Jake Fraley's a legitimately good big league player. I'm excited about him, but at the same point, like I'm not going to anoint him the next captain of the Reds for the decade because he happens to be one of the 3 or 4 best bats that's out there. That is what it is, and it's fine. I like Jake Fraley. I've got him on a fantasy team, and I started him today. It was good, but he was not my first round pick.
Yeah, if you're talking about having Jake Fraley batting in the 3 hole in the lineup, that really sort of shines a spotlight on, for me, what was the saddest part of today, which was that we didn't get to see Joey Votto.
Yep.
That will be a fog that hangs over not just this opening day, but any future ones that he is in the league, and even a couple once he's retired. I think it would have been it would have brought something else to the experience. So I hated not seeing Joey. I hope that we get a chance to do it again sometime in the future.
I've got this sneaking theory that if things don't go as planned this year, which I don't want to project on that but this is not going to be the last time Joey Votto is a Red on opening day. Is my sneaking suspicion, but I don't want to get into when that will be. I will say though, if you look at what Joey's done in April's past in recent seasons, I almost understand his commitment to making sure he is totally tuned in before wanting to get back on the field. And maybe it's not a terrible thing that he wasn't a part of today's festivities if the Reds really are, whether we like it or not, choosing to kind of turn the page on that era and go youth. He wasn't there to be that big distraction. Not that he's a distraction. He would deserve every bit of adulation that he got. But if the Reds truly are going to go young, him not being there and him kind of saying like, no, you guys take a week or two and get your feet wet. And when I'm back to being much more in tune to my swing, I'll be back to be a part of this. I almost wonder if that was by design on his part also. I don't know. I'm projecting here, but
I hadn't thought about it that way.
That's the way I that's how I rationalize him not being there today.
Kind of Jonathan India, you say this is your team, have at it kind of a thing?
Something like that, yeah. I'm not sure I've got what it takes to be 100% on. I might be 90%, but if I'm not 100%, it's not my team anymore. And so go get him. And when he comes back in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, whatever it is, he's a part player, which can still be a big part of this team, but it's not, the spotlight's not on him at that point, not because he's not capable of producing, but because it should be on the other players who are going to be around for a while. So I don't know. Again, this is me projecting because I didn't get a chance to watch Joey Votto play for the Reds today.
I know we can all we're all gonna be sad about that for a little while. Let's move on to the pitching a little bit. Hunter Green's start was, if it wasn't for Fernando Cruz's just very unfortunate appearance, Hunter Green had a chance to have one of the weirdest stat lines I've ever seen. 3.1. He ended up with 3.1 innings pitched, 5 hits, 3 runs, all earned, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. If Fernando Cruz could have come in there and shut that down, it would have been 3.1, 8 Ks with 1 earned run. Chris, what'd you see out of Hunter today? That good, bad, the ugly?
Well, the reaction I had watching him was, gosh, I wonder what he would look like through a 98 instead of 101. Because it felt like just a lot of overthrowing. A lot of those fastballs running away from right-hand hitters, like way off the plate, like not even close. Obviously the stuff's electric. It felt like a lot of fastballs, what I saw. But I kind of feel like if he could live at 98 and maybe get a hair more movement, he might be even more effective than he is, rather than, topping out the gun.
Well, living at 101 is still 4 miles per hour slower than where he tops out.
I don't know if I believe that. Do you believe that?
I didn't believe it when it happened. I was like, I don't know how. Obviously, it sounds nonsensical to say it didn't look like 105, but it didn't look like 105.
It wasn't anywhere near like the place where they're looking for the ball, right?
Oh, he missed by like 2.5 feet for the spot. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But listen, we don't fact check on this podcast, so as far as I'm concerned, that was 106 miles an hour. We're rounding up. I thought it was interesting. I can't wait to see that breakdown on like what pitches he threw and how often he was using that changeup quite a bit, which is interesting. I don't know. Wick, what'd you see?
I didn't think he had great command of his slider today, and I think that's kind of what kind of got him in trouble. Towards the end of last season, I think that was a pitch that really kind of took off for him, and it became his keep them off balance pitch. I'd have to go back and double check again, but when I was paying the most attention to him, he wasn't really throwing it for strikes as much. And that led him to have to kind of lean on that fastball a little bit more than I think he wanted to. And it worked, but it also worked his pitch count up. He was at 83 pitches with 10 outs recorded. And I think that's why David Bell was the early hook there, because, it's the same reason why I've not been as optimistic on even the high end projections of what this Reds team can do, because with those 3 young starters that they're leaning on, even if everything goes completely as well as it possibly can, I really don't see them letting any of them go really beyond 150 innings this year, because there's not enough around them to warrant wanting to push them into September to do that. And if that's the case, what does September hold? it's the fact is he's the youngest starting pitcher in baseball on opening day this year at 23 and with not a lot of innings on his shoulder. I don't foresee them letting him go pitch count wise deep in games like this, nor do I see them going deep into the season innings wise like this. And there's just not a whole lot behind him to really kind of pick up those pieces, both in the rotation or in the bullpen. So I actually kind of thought this was a start that we would see from Hunter Green. I thought he might get to 90 pitches. I was hoping he'd get 90 pitches in 5 innings, but obviously it came in the 4th beforehand. But I think it's just kind of indicative of where he is right now. And it's not a bad thing at all. It's just you factor that in with what the Reds have to offer behind him and where they are in terms of not necessarily prioritizing winning games this year. You might see a lot of this year, which is him not giving up a lot of hits, but if he can't keep the ball in the strike zone either, that pitch count's going to rise pretty quickly. So I don't think Pittsburgh ever really had him, teed up. One incredible O'Neill Cruz swing aside, which was electric as hell. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what you'll see a lot of from him as he continues to refine his craft going forward.
Yeah, that pitch clock, like that one, that Cruz at bat, like it when I think what we're going to notice is like when things happen, they can happen really fast now.
Yeah,
because there's no like stepping off and pacing around. I mean, hell, O'Neill Cruz probably would have stepped out of the box when he was down 0-2.
Right.
In a prior world. But I just saw like I think he wanted that 0-2 pitch, which I think was a ball, but he didn't get the call. And that just like he turned his brain off, it seemed like at that point. He's like, I'm just gonna throw it by him. And that's one dude that can hit a fastball no matter how hard you throw it.
I'm sure as hell did.
I mean, I didn't like the way it ended up, but
he hit it.
That was one of the few times that I've seen Hunter Green sort of, you hate to say, like lose composure. And I think it's got something, at least a little bit, to do with exactly what you're saying. He didn't get the opportunity to step off the mound, take a deep breath, collect himself, and go. And I don't think he was as mad about, obviously, I don't know what he's thinking, but I'm going to sit here and pretend I do. I don't think he was as mad about that one pitch that he didn't get as he was a previous 5 or 6 that he just never seemed to get a call. And collectively that added up, and he showed it a little bit, which is something we're not used to seeing. And granted, he settled down right after that and went and did his job. But it was it reminded me a lot of last year with a little more finesse. But you see all the potential in the world. You see why people are as high on him as they are. And then you also see how, hey man, like you're young. Like you got to learn how to pitch in this league. People can hit 100-mile-an-hour fastballs.
And what was
the league right now?
His 20? He made 25 starts last year. Is that right? So this is 26th start of his career.
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, it's the biggest start of his life at the professional level. Like I can see, I obviously never competed in sports anywhere close to this level, but like I do remember getting heated in big moments when you were asked to do them at times 20 years ago. That happens. It's and he'll get through that and get past that. But I am trying to also temper my expectations a little bit and be like, yeah, he's 23, and this was hands down it's the most crowded Great American Ballpark's ever been in his career. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And so hopefully he'll take away that aspect of it more than he will the one mistake pitch that got absolutely clobbered.
I mean, we can characterize it as like a meltdown, but I mean, he's not like Matt Latos out there. I mean, it was a lapse of concentration, really.
Yeah.
And 2 pitches, he made 2 bad pitches. He should have got him out on 2-2, and then bang. So hopefully he takes that away, and so you can't take one pitch off against these dudes. You cannot throw it. You just can't throw it 102 past O'Neill Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was an understandable lapse in concentration. I felt like it's one of those things that the growing pains, they're going to come with this
development
and some of these new rule changes, and we're going to see a lot of other pitchers do it too. Hopefully the Reds can be on the right side of that a few times. One thing that sort of spotlighted for me was a lot of people have said, man, it's fun knowing that the Reds are going to have a chance 3 out of every 5 games. Like they're going to send out a starter that gives them a chance to win the ball game 3 out of 5 times. It's going to be a long year if 3 of those 5 don't get to the 4th inning or 5th inning. We're already running thin. We know the fourth and fifth spots in the rotation are terrifying. I was going to say questionable, but terrifying. It is not must-watch TV. So they're going to have to do some tweaks. You're going to need those three young studs to go deeper into the games. I didn't think the bullpen was that bad today. I think there was some good things to highlight. Fernando Cruz, unfortunately, not one of them. Alex Young looked good. Derek Law got out of all his trouble. Ian Jabot, legendary Great Britain reliever Ian Jabot was perfectly fine. I guess like a lot of the things that terrified me last year aren't terrifying me this year, and that's my big takeaway from this game.
Yeah, I'll agree with that for sure. I mean, Derek Law specifically looked better than I expected him to. But let's be honest, like this was a bullpen that was dead last and fifth in all of baseball last year, and we're basically counting significantly on TJ Antone and Lucas Sims and Tony Santillan all getting back to health, and maybe Justin Dunn being in that mix if he didn't get a starting spot. It's a banged up group that didn't have a lot of depth to begin with, so we're going to be watching a lot of guys that are the plan C's and plan D's already. And, if that's when you factor all that into what you saw today, once again, it was also against the Pirates. There's some hope out there, no doubt about it, but it was also a little bit of, I didn't have incredible expectations for what they were going to try to be tasked with pulling off today either.
Chris, what did you think about that lineup?
Well, I mean, it is what it is, I guess, what I'd say. There's 3 or 4 guys that are interesting, and there's a couple guys who I'm counting on to be pretty solid. Spencer Steer is pretty cool. I'm going to be honest, like I'm kind of coming new to this whole team because I checked out last May and did not come back. Like I
missed you.
Yeah, right. I was out. Like I had no interest in this team at all last year. So I didn't see much of Hunter Green last year. I didn't see much of Spencer Steer. So some of these guys are coming new and they're kind of impressive. I don't know. A lot of strikeouts from your starting outfield though.
Yeah, that's a fact. My big question was, and this happened as soon as they released the lineup card, I said, how's the guy that barely made the team and probably would not have made the team if Joey Votto was playing, batting 5th? When established major leaguers Will Myers and then Spencer Steer, who every projection system on the planet thinks is going to be the best Red this year, batting below him. I mean, maybe
it's a very Dusty Baker kind of move, isn't it?
don't want to shake up the rest of the lineup by adjusting them. So
we're all used to it.
Yeah.
I couldn't get over that. Some guy whose name I promise not to remember come September was batting 5th on opening day. Good for him, by the way. Yeah,
might have had the biggest hit of the game too. I mean, yeah, that's baseball gods throwing karma at you whenever that happens. No doubt.
Yeah, for sure. Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. What did you guys think of Jose Barrero today?
Solid glove. Love the defense.
Yeah, he made one tremendous play going against his body and throwing back across. That was tremendous. I mean, that's the thing is that like if the bat never shows up, he's got a glove, he's got legs, he's got 2 tools that you can't teach to most guys out there, whether it's the everyday shortstop or modified backup shortstop and center field role. Like he's a big leaguer in my eyes. Like that will play. And obviously he's got batting practice skills that a lot of people don't have either. The new stance, everything else, it's a very, very small sample against a right-handed pitcher, but he looked promising. He laid off a couple early breaking balls that looked like they were pretty good pitches early on against Mitch Keller. That was impressive. I feel like he never did that last year, and it let him get deeper into counts. I've still got optimism that he's not going to be a guy with an OPS that starts with 4 anymore. I think he's significantly better than that. How much better, I don't know, but it was at least one day where I didn't look at him as being overmatched today, that was a good thing. And yeah, defensively it was fine. That's a guy who I would trust at shortstop every day if I needed to.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm glad you brought up that one point. let's not sugarcoat it. He had a really bad day at the plate. I mean, he was 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Let's not pretend that he wasn't. But last year, he looked so uncomfortable at the plate that it was obvious. You didn't even have to know anything about baseball to know that this guy looked overmatched. I don't think he looked overmatched today. I do think that there may have been some scouting report issues. I don't know why he wasn't getting attacked with that low and away breaking ball every single pitch. But go ahead.
Yeah, bet against Moretta in the sixth. I think lasted about 18 seconds with the pitch clock and the 3-pitch strikeout.
Yeah.
It's like barely got the walk-up music was still echoing, and he was going back to the dugout.
I'm just saying, you have to understand the storylines here. You were the guy standing in front of Kevin Newman facing Dari Moretta right now. I mean, this is big cinema stuff right here.
Oh yeah, probably Sports Center is going to lead with that.
This is a celebrity death match waiting to happen here. We got to find out who wins. Yeah.
No, yeah, but he was not the most overmatched Red in the lineup, unfortunately. Chad's favorite, Will Benson, did not have himself a day. 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. Yikes, man! He looked like Jose Barrero last year.
Well, the last time he finally took a pitch in off the plate, which was the first of like 7, I think, that he saw all day. I don't know. I like it. I still think that guy's got some talent. And I mean, obviously, I'm not going to write him off for one day.
No, of course not. I think he's
one
of the
reasons I'm
super.
You hope for. Yeah, for sure.
Oh. Doing the Pokey Reese kind of opening day.
Yeah, Benson's one of the reasons I'm so excited about watching this season and this team. I think he really has a chance to do some fun stuff out there. But it was a important bats late in the game. You start thinking, like, have your Cincinnati moment. Like, we don't know you yet, but we'd love to. And it just did not happen. Let's see. Anything else? I mean, we talked about Votto on the IL. Let's get into some of the spring training stuff. Were there any roster surprises for you guys? I mean, Jason Vosler starting was definitely a surprise to me. The big one for me was that I really wanted Henry Ramos to make this team. I think he's a fun guy. Like, older, sure, like he doesn't have all that upside, but he got raked in Korea or Japan, whatever it was, and he's mashing in spring training. I don't see why they don't let somebody like that on the roster instead of the Jason Voslers of the world, but that was kind of the only one for me.
I'm kind of convinced the Reds were surprised, honestly. Like I honestly think they reached a point mid spring training where they thought Joey Votto was going to be here on opening day, and I think when he said no, I mean they optioned Stuart Fairchild, and then brought him back, and I'm not sure I really remember that ever happening, even like with a significant spring training injury. I don't really remember that happening on this kind of level where they were like, no, with a week to go, you're back to AAA, and then all of a sudden you're like, number change and welcome back to the opening day roster. And I think that's because they were like, well, Will Myers is going to have to play some more first base, which he eventually did today. They wanted an additional right-handed bat to play in the outfield. They needed an additional outfielder in that regard also. So I guess I'm surprised at the transaction tree it took to get them to where they were.
Yeah.
But again, let's be honest, it's an injury riddled roster already. They've got a lot of guys. I mean, the announcement they put out this morning, which they waited till Thursday to do, I don't know if that's because they had waiver claims in overnight or what, but when they came out this morning before announcing the opening day roster, it was that long of which guys were going on the IL and which IL it was and who's going where. And Nick Solak getting DFA'd this morning also. I think there was a lot of still, at the margins trimming that had to happen right up until the last minute, which lets me know that they weren't totally really comfortable with maybe more than about 21 or 22 of the guys that were available. And they really had to make the toughest decisions out there to get 26, So,
would you be?
Yeah. I'd be waiting till the absolute last minute possible to see who had more guys than they could possibly stomach on their 40-man roster and were putting on waivers, which I think that's what they did. Yeah.
I completely thought they were going to get somebody from another organization. And I will say, I also would have told you 6 weeks ago that Chad Pender and Nick Solak would have absolutely positively been on the opening day roster.
Yeah.
I mean, so I had no faith in their willingness not to load up on those kind of guys. And to their credit, they didn't do it. So
wait a second. Y'all hear that? Is that Chad Dawson's music?
Hacksaw Jim Duggan coming in from Rhodes.
Off the top rope.
Chad Dawson,
What's up?
Welcome.
Nate? You gonna tag Nate out or what?
No way.
I'm
got- We got both of you in the ring.
How's everyone doing? We talking about Jason Vossler here? What's happening?
Had some Jason Bossler talk. We're kind of talking about roster construction right now. And I got to say, believe it or not, we've said some positive things about Nick Krall on this podcast in the last few weeks. I'm going to draw the line at my Nick Krall praise with what Wick just pointed out. They weren't really comfortable with more than 21 or 22 of the players on the 26-man roster. Oh, get crawled.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chad, did you get to watch the game?
I did. Most of it, I had it on my phone basically the last few innings because I was at my son's ball game, and I don't know what happened here. I kept expecting that big walk-off win, and it didn't happen. But I checked the box score. My guy Will Benson had a big game, I see, and so. Yeesh. I don't know. What are you going to do? It's the Reds and the Pirates opening day. It was fun. Come on. Now, Wick, now really.
I say he popped in with the Tottenham towel. I was telling them earlier. I'm in the makeshift recording studio in the side of our bedroom because the normal office is under construction as we're getting ready for baby number 2. So it dawned on me as I see Tottenham in the background that I might as well dig into my own closet and pull out my Arsenal shirt just for countermeasures here. Somebody's got to root for a winning team this year on some sport, right?
So. It's only you. It's only you. Yeah. Certainly not me. No, I don't know. Come on, too many Arsenal fans here. Get out of here, Nate. I don't know what to say about this game. I don't know what you all have already said. I listened to a little bit of it on my way back from the field, but
most of what we said, there's only one viewer here. We have more now, so go ahead and repeat yourself.
yeah, that was me. No, it was. What are you going to do? Opening day Cincinnati, a lot of fun. Love to see the crowds and the excitement and. The diehards will have Great American Ballpark to themselves for the next 80 games, maybe, but it's always good to see the pageantry. And I don't know, I get excited about it, regardless of how the team is. Saw some things today I thought that are going to continue to be problems. The bullpen blowing a lead, and I don't know. We can nitpick and break down everything on the opening day game and draw grand conclusions, but you can't lose them all if you don't lose the first one.
Jonathan India hit that double in the bottom of the 9th. I jumped off the couch. I was ready. I was like, this is good. I can't wait to get on the podcast and talk about this walk-off win. Let's freaking go. And that's more excitement than I've had for Reds baseball in a really, really long time. And that's going to be my big takeaway. I don't think that's going to be just the diehards going to games this year. I think that guys like Jonathan India, guys like Tyler Stevenson, who also had a pretty rough day, are going to keep people coming out to the ball yard because they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. Today was fun for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's baseball. It's back. I don't know. They just have to win 4 games out of their first 25 to make it better than last year. That's all I'm hoping for. Just a little bit better than last year.
It's going to be hard to go undefeated now, which kind of sucks.
Well,
I'll take a series win.
At least they don't have 11 of their first 13 games on the road like last year. I feel like, and just looking back at the schedule last year and who the heck they played early on to contribute to that miserable April, they were up against like all the best teams in baseball right off the bat, and a lot of them on the road. They played the Dodgers and the Braves and the Padres twice. Like it was a very bad time to be a very bad team playing very bad baseball, and it really snowballed on them quickly. And it would be very nice to. I guess I went back to 2019 because I was trying to go back to 2018 to figure out, reminiscing on those wonderful Brian Price era baseball teams where they went 3-18 and he got fired. The next year they went 11-16 in 2019, which wasn't a great year, but at least I remember 2019 being a season where it was like, I had interest in that club for a while. It didn't end up being much, but it wasn't like I was, nope, I'm gone by the 3rd week of April. It would be very, very nice because there are, as we've mentioned before earlier, while the 26-man roster is not tremendous, there are a number of really talented, fun players to watch if they can stay healthy this year. I would love to have the chance to watch them play competitive, meaningful baseball games beyond the first couple weeks of the season. That'd be great.
Yeah. Also, love the comments, guys. Keep those coming. My second favorite Canadian named Joseph asked, why take Hunter out in the fourth? And for me, it's a pitch count thing. If you're not planning on contending for a World Series this year, why leave him out there any longer the first game of the season? I don't know. Chris, any other opinions on that?
No, I mean, and it wasn't like he was dominating. He'd thrown 83 pitches, but it was, 4 or 5 pitches every at bat. It didn't seem like anything was going to – he wasn't turning the corner, and you weren't going to get another inning out of him anyway. So when you got Fernando Cruz available and he's heated up.
When you have Fernando Cruz warmed up, you got to go to him. I mean, you have no choice. Have you all talked about the pitch clock thing with Hunter yet? Did y'all discuss that?
We touched on. We can go into it again.
Yeah. What did you see, Chad?
Well, he clearly seemed flustered. I guess it's just it's going to be interesting to watch some of these guys get used to this in real time. And I don't know. I don't have no grand conclusions about it other than it was interesting that they're going to have to adjust on the fly.
To me, the odd thing is why he took the pitch clock violation in the first place. Like, he was just standing there staring at Tyler Stevenson when time ran. It wasn't like he was shaking people off or it was close. Like, all of a sudden he was just out of time.
He was also humming along at that point too. He had 5 straight strikeouts or something like that. Like,
he had Cruzo too.
Yeah. He was cooking until he wasn't.
Yeah,
and it really just seemed like he's that type of guy that really likes to collect himself, and his composure is something that we laud constantly, and everybody seems to praise him for. And you're right, Chris. Like, this pitch clock might remove the ability to take that deep breath, and I hope that's not the case going forward. I hope MLB does step in and be like, hey, don't be a beehole about this stuff. Like, if the guy needs a minute and he's gonna mess up by 2 seconds, it's fine. We don't need to change the game that much, but we'll see how that goes. Mr. Juan says the pitch clock is stupid. I don't necessarily agree with you, Mr. Juan, but I see your point. He also asked, what do we make of Hunter still not throwing his changeup? I thought I saw him throwing it a few times today.
I think he threw it
I don't know how much.
I think he threw it early, but as we mentioned a little bit earlier ago, like, I don't think he was locating his slider much at all. And I'd have to go back and figure out exactly which of his changeups he was throwing early also. I feel like he wasn't locating that either. And so the 83 pitches to get 10 outs thing, I think, was a pitch count issue that ultimately made David Bell kind of make that decision. But I think the fact that he wasn't locating those pitches also was a reason why. So to pitch out of that one particular jam and also do it in a high leverage situation with that many pitches under his belt, I just think he thought it was time because he wasn't getting closer to finding that location the further the game got on. Because, I mean, obviously plenty of pitchers do that where they can't find it early, and second, third time facing the same batters, you kind of figure out where you're throwing stuff. It didn't seem to me that he was finding that secondary pitch location further into the game. So I just don't think he had that today. And I think that made a big difference in why he went to Cruz when he did, because it wasn't like he could lean back on the secondary stuff to get out. But I mean, he threw his, I know they put a graphic up at one point early in the game where he threw his change 5% of the time last year, and that was it. So he was effectively a 2-pitch pitcher. He might have thrown it 8%, which is what additional pitch in that grand scheme today. It didn't seem like something he was leaning on. And I think that's just going to come down to the fact that he hasn't quite mastered it yet, which, again, we're talking about the guy who's the youngest opening day starter in all of baseball this year. It just wasn't his day for his off-speed stuff today, I don't think.
Chad, do you think there's any truth to the rumors floating out of Cincinnati that David Bell just didn't want to deprive the citizens of the Queen City from seeing Fernando Cruz on opening day?
Well, I hope so. If he cares anything about us, the baseball consumer, I think a lot of this with Hunter Green, pulling him out early and the change up and the getting frustrated at the pitch clock or whatever. Wick sort of hit on what I was going to say. He's a kid. He's a kid. I mean, we think of he's so composed. Usually, we think of maybe as a little older than he is. But here's a trivia time question: who was the last Reds opening day starter younger, or as young or younger than Hunter Green? Who was the last one? Does anyone know the answer to this? Chris Garber knows the answer.
They put this on the TV today. It was Frank Pastore.
Oh, did it? Frank Pastore, 1980, right?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I knew it had been a while, but I would not have guessed 43 years ago. Wow.
Well,
Wick, hope
The
you're reminding
immortal
everybody
Frank
that
Pastore.
1980 was 43 years ago.
Yikes.
I know what
March.
1982 was. Trust me on that one. Yeah.
So yeah, he's a kid, whatever, it was a lot of what we saw last year. Really, really great sometimes. And he's still a kid other times. So I don't take anything away from Hunter Green's start other than I hope it's better next time.
Yeah, I love it.
Pull up Nathan's question there again.
This is not me, by the way. I assume it's Nathan Comer.
Different Nathan Connor, I think. Are broken
It says,
communication devices a good way to get an extra rest? Sure.
Chess.
yeah, there was it Tyler Stevenson had a breakdown of equipment at one point today, and they had to come out and give him a new device.
I heard that Mike Moustakas tried to leg out an infield single, and then right after that, complained that the communication device was broken, so he could get some extra rest.
Come on, really, we're still with the Moustakas. Come on.
Hey, I was about to go put local television on and watch Mike Moustakas start at third base for the Rockies out here tonight. So
it's terribly exciting.
I hate that for you.
I actually feel like there's a rule on that. Even I feel like they've tried to think of like every possible trick you could pull to get a little extra time out there, and they've squeezed it all out.
Well,
the Astros are going to be going to try to find. Yeah, the Astros are going to be going to try to find, secondhand communication devices that are on their last legs, just so they can break them in the middle of the inning.
I mean, it's baseball. They're gonna keep trying to find every possible way to squeeze out whatever advantage they can. So I fully expect if this is something that actually could buy you a couple seconds, we're going to see it all the time. I mean, the communication device operators within all 30 Major League Baseball stadiums are going to get fired left and right if players keep going out there and say, no, it's not working. Sorry. But they're going to keep doing it. It's going to keep happening. It's baseball. I mean, they're going to find the edge. And I can't wait to find out how stupid it gets, but they're going to keep trying to find it.
I am very pleased that a little bit of the nonsense that was going on in spring training didn't seem to stick with the pitchers really trying to play games. They stopped the quick pitching pretty early, and letting it wind down to the clocks at 14 or whatever. I'm glad that doesn't seem to be a thing.
Yeah, my hope is that the goal of this rule was to improve on the pace of play. Let's get things over more quickly. We don't need this rule to be strictly enforced to get there, and we don't need manipulation. We don't need people playing games. Let's just make it go quicker.
It was very interesting that Bally Sports seemed to have no plan for how to display the pitch clock. Did you notice this on the broadcast?
No.
Like in the first
inning, that little diamond between the bases where the runners are on, which you could barely see.
Yeah, but the first inning it wasn't anywhere.
No.
And the second inning, it was like superimposed a camera of it, like in a 1970s football game where they just like have a camera aimed at the clock and put it in an inset window.
Yeah.
And then finally the third inning, they came up, or maybe they fixed the.
I'm going to rail against it as a fan. I don't want the clock up there. I don't need to see it. It should not be something so obvious to the fan, to the teams even. Like if they're throwing it in our face, we're going to have to keep talking about it. And I think that's going to lead to people trying to manipulate it more often. I'm against seeing the clock. What about some of the other rule changes? I mean, from a viewing standpoint, the new shift rules are awesome, and I am totally here for them.
I thought the larger bases were going to make that overturn of, was it Will Myers, who the striker him out, throw him out, steal second base in the eighth inning. I thought that extra little quarter of an inch was going to make that a safe call, but apparently not.
Was that Stuart Fairchild pinch running?
It might have been It was Fairchild. It was Fairchild pinch running. That's right. The when he switched into right field.
I thought
we can go Mighty
Yeah.
Ducks on it though. Quarter inch the other way. It would have been out entirely.
That's true. That's true. I that of all the rule changes, that's the one where I think I like it the most. Steals that was a big reason why I became a baseball fan when I was a kid. The ability for people on the bases to kind of get in the pitcher's head and get into the catcher's head and get into whoever's calling the pitches, their heads also. Of course, back when I was a kid getting into baseball, fastballs were about 87 miles an hour, and getting all the way to second base was a little bit easier than it is when Hunter Green's throwing 112 or whatever it is he is. So I appreciate their ability to recognize getting that back in the game is something that's it can totally change the game. It'll totally change rosters, I think, once teams get a chance to fully adapt to that. Some of the other ones I'm a little bit skeptical about, but the larger bases and encouraging more running on the bases is something I'm very much for.
Well, they flashed a stat up there that said that the Reds stole 41 bases in spring training, and they only stole 58 all of last season.
But
I love that.
Yeah,
but
it was cool. I mean, the first inning, the Pirates are trying to steal. I mean, it ended up being a walk, but they're running. Then they had that really cool bunt for a base hit. Just like a lot of variety, a lot of different kinds of play going on.
Woo the Reds coming in with some patented
Wick
optimism.
Well, I was going to say is that it's something we've been through in iterations of Reds past. You still can't steal first base though, and I believe it was Will Benson who caused the most havoc on the base paths in spring training. But when you go over 4 with 4 strikeouts, it's hard to put a lot of havoc on the bases. So that's still going to be something the Reds are going to have to do. So
Chad's adopted son, Will Benson, like that.
TJ Friedel didn't steal bases today either. I mean, the guys they've got who've got the wheels, you still got to get on first base to be able to cause that havoc, and we did not see that today. So, how about Woo? Where'd Woo go?
Yeah, let's look at Woo here.
Bring him back up. Woo says, or asks, is it possible that the combined salaries of the 2 team starting lineups today will be the lowest to take the field this season? If so, can there be a banner raised or something? Woo, at this point, I'll take anything that gets a banner raised. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Did I see that the payroll of the players that are actually on the Reds active roster today was like 20 million?
I think that it ended up being less than what they're paying Mike Moustakas to not
right.
play.
It's close. It's close because
Yeah.
Major League minimum's like 720 right now, I think. So that times 26, that gets you to roughly 1 Moustakas, I guess. Although no,
Okay.
that gets you to what Moustakas would have made had they picked up the option, not the buyout on top. So yeah,
Right.
that would have been like 22. So they're getting pretty close to that. They're not about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Wow.
Can Joey Votto come back, please?
Why? After what Jason Vosler did. Garber called him Joey Pip. Joey Votto's never going to get his job back.
Gotta say, I'm still riding a bit of that Spencer Steer wave. He looked really, really good. Why he was batting, was it 7th? I don't know. Why he was batting 2 spots behind Jason Pip Bossler, I don't know. David Bell is he's going to David Bell some things from time to time.
I heard y'all saying earlier, it really did seem like you're in Little League, and you don't want to get kids used to hitting 7th. You don't want him to have to move him around to the lineup. It's just, let's just stick him in at 5th. That's where we were planning on batting, whoever.
I bat behind him. I go out to the next circle when he's in the batter's box. That's how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you hitting in the order? After him.
After him. Yep.
Yeah, we've all seen that. We've all been there. When I played, it was after all of them. That's when I bat.
After
lucky. All my friends have already batted. So Spencer Steer, though, I made a comment during the game. He really he's making his opening day debut, and whatever. He's not exactly a blue chip prospect, but he sure looks the part. I mean, he looks like a guy that's going to stick and be a player. I don't know if he'll ever be a star, but he looks like a guy that's going to be a player for a while. And again, I don't want to say too much after one game, but just last year and then this spring, I don't know. I don't know what his ceiling is, but I think his floor is pretty high. I think is the way I would put it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He homered in his first game last year too, didn't he?
He did, yes.
Yeah. So, like, they gave him the debut patch. I guess no, they didn't because he had already made his debut, but they were giving out those debut patches to all the rookies making their first game today. Maybe he wanted a patch.
Well, we'll see what happens on Saturday. Maybe you can only play him in important games. Just bench him for most of the regular season. Any division matchups late in the year, we get him out there. Playoffs, he's playing every day though.
It'd be like the natural. He'll come out at age 42, finally back on the field. If he's only playing in big games, he won't get into any big games in Cincinnati until maybe he's 42. They'll finally have a big game.
Well, speaking of the next time they have some big games, I guess I don't think we've talked about it yet. In the minor leagues down there, Ellie De La Cruz and Christian Encarnacion Strand both starting on the injured list. I think there was halfway through spring training, a pretty large contingent of Reds fans that thought we would see at least one of those guys on this major league roster for opening day if Votto wasn't going to be healthy. Does that dampen things for you guys at all? Are you worried about those injuries? I mean, hamstrings and backs always scare me. And that's not just a lingering symptom from watching Magic Mike 2, but
I'll say one thing quickly, and then we'll pass it off while the guys are recovering from the Magic Mike comment. You have to feel bad for Christian Encarnacion Strand because that poor guy is probably the starting first baseman on opening day if it weren't for this back injury. I mean, maybe not, but after the way he performed in the spring, we ready to give him a start. Votto there, but I feel bad for him.
Yeah, from a business standpoint, it would have made sense. Hey, we're sorry Votto can't be there, but remember that young guy that just hit 600 during spring training? He's going to get some at-bats. Wick,
yeah,
what were you saying?
I mean, if both of them came up due to injuries to other people and both of them put up, 5-6 win seasons this year, it would be an absolutely amazing thing to watch as a fan. I still don't think that's enough to carry this Reds team to like the playoffs. So, I'm disappointed that I'm going to get a chance to watch less of them because I'm absolutely going to watch Louisville games whenever I can consume them, wherever I consume them. So it's a bummer in that regard, but it's also, I don't think it changes a lot because I don't think they were going to be in the mix for, big time, everyday, regular appearances this early in this particular 2023 season anyway. I don't think that was ever part of the plan. I will say I am kind of bummed that we're not going to get a chance to see them play alongside Votto while he's on rehab in Louisville. I think that would have just been, it's already an incredibly stacked AAA team. That just would have been a very unique experience for anybody who's got a chance to get the Bats games for 2-3 weeks in April of 2023 to see future Hall of Famer with that much talent around him in a AAA ballpark. I think that's a pretty unique thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Chris?
I'd say he probably has more talent around him in Louisville than he will in Cincinnati.
Oh, come on.
Maybe not the pitching
I hate
staff.
that you're
Position-wise, you might be right.
If both rosters reach their absolute 100% ceilings, who wins the 7-game series?
Yeesh, I don't know.
I'll take the pitching staff instead.
Yeah, you got to go with the pitchers in the major league team, but
the only thing I have to say about the injuries to those guys are just, if it delays their arrival on the big league scene, and none of us expect the Reds to be particularly good, and so I just want them to be interesting. And those guys on the big league level would at least be something to watch. And so as soon as they can get there, bring them on. I don't care if they're going to lead to lots of wins.
Well, aside from my super hilarious Magic Mike comment that did not land somehow.
It was a Magic Mike 2 comment, wasn't it?
Magic Mike 2 comment. I will say that, be cautious with these guys. I'm super excited about both of them, obviously. 2, whenever they're ready to come back, wait a couple more weeks. There's no reason to mess around. And a little bonus on top of that is that whole service time game. You don't have to, be manipulative. It just worked out that way. So I'll take that.
I guess. They should have got Nick Senzel up here sooner.
Still true. Even this season, maybe. All right, so guys, we've gone an hour already. I feel like we can keep going for another hour, but we'll just keep talking in circles. And I've already convinced myself this team's going to win 80 games this year, so I need to stop drinking. Apparently, let's go around the clock real quick. Any parting thoughts on opening day in Cincinnati, Chad? What you got?
It's fun. Whatever. It's divorced from anything else in the season. It's a lot of excitement. I'm happy that it's fun for guys like Spencer Steer, and Will Benson did not respond too well to it, but that's got to be wild for him. Is first opening day and that kind of pageantry, that kind of atmosphere. It's good for him. It's fun. There will be how many in the park on Saturday? 20,000. I don't know. I hope there's a lot, whatever, but it's going to be a big difference. And so I'll say this though. I was happy to actually, against all odds, I was happy to be watching baseball. It's fun to watch games that actually matter, pitches that actually matter. So I had a good time, and I'll be watching the other 161.
That's a fact. Wick, how you feeling, bud?
There was not a single player I watched today that I knew was not going to be a part of the Cincinnati Reds' future. Last year, even Luis Castillo, Tyler Mahle, like you knew they weren't going to be a part of the Cincinnati Reds' future. Like the good players weren't. A lot of bad players, you were watching also. They're like, he's not going to be part of the future either. I didn't get that sense today. I don't know which guys aren't going to be. There are plenty of them out there. I mean, obviously bullpen issues. I mean, it's the bullpen. That's a different story. But on the position player side, really, there's a lot of guys who are out there competing, and there was nobody there who I'm like, I don't know, maybe not. That was kind of refreshing. It's a competition out there for a lot of them. That's not necessarily conducive to a great winning environment, but it means that that there are guys out there who aren't mailing it in, that are going to be giving it their all, that they know their job's on the line. And, for better or for worse, that does create an environment of watching that does give some drama to it. It eventually will down the road, especially as, Ellie and Christian Encarnacion and Strand get healthier and start producing. You're going to see a little bit more of a squeeze there. And I think this was the first episode of that. And that was it's entertaining in a different way than I've watched baseball in most of my life. But it's a team that's got some spark to it, and I will enjoy watching that. Well, that's the perk of watching them. So
I could not agree more. I think that this is going to be a lot of fun, if not successful season. We're gonna enjoy watching this team. Wick, real quick, please shout out where our listeners and viewers can find you.
So you can read my stuff over at redreporter.com. Still doing as much writing over there as I possibly can, despite the fact I'm trying to get the Walks Will Haunt podcast back up off the ground. We basically tabled that all of last year because I couldn't find enough wherewithal to want to jump into talking about the Cincinnati Reds on my own volition last year. But we're getting that back rebooted. We've joined up with Fans First Sports Network, which is a lot of the SB Nation podcasts that got cast aside when SBN decided to stop supporting those. We've banded together and partnered up with Megaphone to kind of put a lot of our work together over there. And we're working on getting our stuff back up off the ground and connected over there as well. But you can find us there. We're on most every podcast network you can track down. Look for us as Walks Will Haunt, which we should be having weekly podcast episodes going forward there. But then also please stop by and read us at Red Reporter, where we try to do our best to give you some statistics and some information, but also keep things a little bit light and humorous, because let's face it, this is year 41 of my life where I've been a Cincinnati Reds fan, and most of those you need a little chuckling to get yourself through them. So that's where we are, and track us down when you can.
Can I just say, Walks Will Haunt podcast, by far the best podcast in the history of Cincinnati Reds podcast.
Not the most dangerous, but I'll take best.
No,
that'll work. Yeah. So
it is somewhere in my top 4 favorite podcasts. I'm not sure exactly where, but it's right above the Riverfront Bengals show.
I'll take it.
Chris, anything you want to say on the way out?
Hey, just glad to be watching baseball again. See how it goes.
The Cincinnati Reds 2023. We'll see how it goes. That's pretty much it.
It's only to get warmer and sunnier, like warmer and sunnier in baseball. Let's do it for a couple months. Why not?
Bring it on.
Yeah, we weren't there. I'm excited to get to Cincinnati later on this summer. Hopefully we can meet some people, shake some hands, and have some beers. But it seemed like the energy in Cincinnati was there. Opening day in Cincinnati, we all know, is a pretty special thing, and it hasn't got to be one of those in a while, and it seemed like it was back. So I love seeing that. I love that baseball is back. I love that this team is going to be fun and, maybe good. We'll see. But that's pretty much it. I had a great time today. So thank you guys for all joining us, talking about the stuff. Thank you to everybody in the comments. We appreciate that. Keep those coming. We're going to try to do some more live stuff a little more often. And just thanks for supporting the Riverfront. Please remember to subscribe to the show either on YouTube or your favorite podcast app, or on the Twitters, the Instagrams, the Facebooks. We are at Riverfront Cincy on all those places. And once again, a huge thank you to our supporters at patreon.com/Riverfront Cincy. The show would not be possible without you. We mean that quite seriously. As Chad would say, shout outs to Adam Dunn, to Luis Alberto, to Wayne Kranchicki, and Eli Cash. For Chad, for Wick, for Chris, this is Nate Dawson saying so long.